audiences all over the world, James Stewart was the personification of everything that was honest, decent and respectable. And while revenge, bitterness and neurosis were all themes that Stewart explored for directors such as Alfred Hitchcock, he remains best remembered for playing small-town idealists who brought us the comforting message that the crooks and slick talkers would never inherit the earth. At least, not as long as Jimmy Stewart was around.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
That's right. That's right. Attaboy, Clarence.
Jimmy personified America. He was apple pie and hot dogs and the band and the parade, and all of it rolled up into one.
To me, coming from an ethnic background, he obviously is extremely American, but I liked what I saw as being the quintessential American.
He was a very positive, defining, uncompromising person. That's what made Jimmy such an important player.
He's too skinny and he's got this really strange voice when he talks, and you just think, this shouldn't work. But it's just brilliant, you know?
He was one of the few actors that could do anything. He could do comedy impeccably, he could do drama impeccably. His range as an actor was extraordinary.
I'll be seeing you, Glenn.
You'll be seeing me. Every time you bed down for the night, you'll look back into the darkness and wonder if I'm there. And some night I will be. You'll be seeing me.
He had the goods on the natch. And that's what I would tell a young actor. You're going to see somebody genuine, somebody who uses his instrument, his every part of himself. You got to go see James Stewart.
Vertigo, the story of a love so powerful it broke down all barriers between past and present, between life and death, between the golden girl in the dark tower and the tawdry redhead that he tried to remake in her image.
It is a movie in which every scene stands out because it is one of the truly great movies. If you want to say about stands out for Stewart, I would say that the first half hour or so where he is following Kim Novak, more or less silent. It's an extraordinary example of an actor simply holding the film in place by the way he's looking. Probably the best acting job Stewart ever did, I would say.
His acting is very now. He makes it very present. And it's clean and economical. There's no fuss to it. It's effortless, it's artless, it's just like, he does it like we breathe air.
With its haunting, dreamlike quality, Vertigo is today acknowledged as a classic, and the pairing of Stewart with Kim Novak inspirational. Their many scenes together have created some of the most iconic images in cinema.
Madeline.
Creating moments in movies, this, I think, is the important thing. Nobody knows exactly how it happens, but what you should do is to prepare yourself as best you can to make these moments happen.
Why did you scream?
I wanted to stop it, Scotty. I ran up to stop it.
You wanted to stop it. Why did you scream? Since you tricked me so well up to then, you played the wife very well, Judy. He made you over, didn't he? He made you over just like I made you over, only better. Not only the clothes and the hair, but the looks and the manner and the words. and those beautiful phony trances, and you jumped into the bay, didn't you? I'll bet you're a wonderful swimmer, aren't you? Aren't you? Aren't you?
Unlike the obsessional characters he often portrayed, Stewart was happy and content. Away from the movie studios, he spent time at his ranch in Santa Ynez, along with his wife, Gloria, their 2 sons from her previous marriage, and their twin daughters.
Everybody would pack into the car and go to the ranch, except for Dad, who would fly to the ranch in a plane that went slower than the car that we were driving to the ranch in. I mean, we remember driving to the ranch and looking up, and we could see Dad's plane, and we would pass him.
My late husband, Stuart Gildred, bought the ranch from Jimmy Stewart in 1975. This is our living room. It's the same living room that the Stewarts had when they were here, and they raised their children here for many years, and they loved it. And when my husband bought it, he said, "I'll buy the ranch if you give me your cowboy hat and your boots." And so here we have what we think is the original cowboy hat that he wore in the movies, with a picture of Stu shaking Jimmy's hand.
It was always wonderful to have this little haven to go to.
And Dad was so happy there because he loved being around horses. And there were quite a few horses on the property. And so each morning he could do what he really enjoyed doing. He'd go out riding.
He was a pretty good horseman. He had his favorite horse called Pie, a sorrel blaze-faced horse that he rode for years. I think that horse even knew Jimmy's lines. He had him for so long.
It was almost a human thing between us. I think we liked each other.
Yes.
And I got so, I really talked to this horse. I know he understood. And they say, now how long is it going to take you to get Pie to walk? And it was 3 o'clock at night, and there were lights and everything. How long is it going to get you take you to get Pie to walk down this long street all by himself? And I said, well, I'll talk to him. and I went back, and I said, Pie, now this is tough because you're a horse. But you have to walk straight down there, and I'm not going to be on you. And the fellow says, how long is it going to take? You're going to talk all night? I said, no, I think you'll do it. So that was a dolly shot, you know, with oil. So they rolled the cameras, and Pie did it the first time.
Although unsuccessful on release, It's a Wonderful Life is now considered a classic, and the film with which Stewart is most closely associated.
Merry Christmas, you wonderful old building and loan!
George Bailey is a young man who wants to go places and to do things. And circumstances keep him from doing that.
Don't you ever get tired of just reading about things?
Yes. What are you doing tonight?
And then there's this opportunity to see what Bedford Falls would have been like if he hadn't been born. And that's that idea. That's the germ of the idea. That's what my father fell in love with. One of the great scenes for me is the scene where he and Donna are on the phone. And it's got all this sexual tension and excitement and it's just a great scene.
He says it's the chance of a lifetime.
Now, you listen to me. I don't want any plastics, and I don't want any ground floors, and I don't want to get married ever to anyone. You understand that? I want to do what I want to do. And you're...
George.
And I gather they had a hard time playing it, and they wanted to wait till the very end of the film to do it. And they did it with one take, and they even left some of the lines out, but that was still the take they used in the film.
But the film's sentimental ending can't disguise the desperation that Stewart brought to his character. George Bailey, on the brink of suicide, meets his guardian angel, Clarence, and is shown what life would be like if he had never existed.
It's a Wonderful Life has a very dark side to it. And it allows you to see the darkness without getting offended or upset by it. How? When he walks in a place where nobody knows him. People are hostile and miserable and angry at you. It puts chills on your back.
Well?
Mother.
Mother, what do you want?
Mother, this is George. I thought sure you'd remember me.
I don't take in strangers unless they're sent here by somebody I know.
Well, I know everybody you know. Your brother-in-law, Uncle Billy.
You know him?
Well, sure I do.
When'd you see him last?
Today, over at his house.
It's a lie. He's been in the insane asylum ever since he lost his business. And if you ask me, that's where you belong.
Strange, isn't it? Each man's life touches so many other lives. And when he isn't around, he leaves an awful hole, doesn't he?
The family Jimmy Stewart was born into on the 20th of May 1908 was conservative, educated and wealthy. The Stewarts had arrived from Ireland and established themselves in Indiana, Pennsylvania at the end of the 18th century. As a boy, he lived with his parents and two sisters, went to school and helped out in his father's hardware store.
I every once in a while think that the reason he kept the hardware store for so long was because he was sure that people were going to catch up to me out in Hollywood on the acting thing, and I would have something to go back to. He wasn't too happy about the acting profession as a way to make a living.
It was at Princeton University, where he studied architecture, that Stewart got interested in acting. In 1932, instead of graduate school, he joined the theatre group, the University Players. Teaming up with Henry Fonda, who had become a lifelong friend, Stewart headed for Broadway, where he was later spotted by an MGM talent scout, who offered him a 7-year contract. In his early films, the studio experimented unsuccessfully with the kinds of roles he could play, even putting him in a musical.
I could plainly see she was flirting with me, and my heart was filled with hope. But how can I show I'm a Romeo through a rusty periscope?
Stewart had that sense of humor, and he had that ability to be a sweet, innocent kid who you just go with.
In his role as Senator Jefferson Smith in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Stewart played a small-town idealist who battled corruption in high places. An American everyman, his performance, most notably in his impassioned speech to the Senate, would be a defining moment in the creation of his screen image.
There's no place out there for graft, or greed, or lies, or compromise with human liberties. And if that's what the grown-ups have done with this world that was given to them, then we better get those boys' camps started fast and see what the kids can do.
He went to his doctor, and he said, I need to sound hoarse. And the doctor dropped, was it mercury? Can you remember what? It couldn't have been mercury. It was some terrible substance that gave him a horrible sore throat and made him sound very hoarse. And that's how he got hoarser and hoarser during the filibuster scene.
You think I'm licked? You all think I'm licked? Well, I'm not licked. And I'm gonna stay right here and fight for this lost cause, even if this room gets filled with lies like these. And the Taylors and all their armies come marching into this place. Somebody will listen to me.
Stewart's distinctive way of speaking would also become his trademark.
Everybody in the world did Jimmy Stewart.
Oh, yeah, it's wonderful to see. I'm very happy to be here.
And I know you want to hear him. I'm aware of that.
You know what they are, my friend? Personal idiosyncrasies, enlarged on that screen, made to look much more important than they are, you know? And if an actor can bring his individuality to it, his sense of what he is, then he's an outstanding actor. And all the actors that we like are the ones that bring a little personal madness, a little personal idiosyncrasies.
With his boyish good looks and natural charm, Stewart was never short on female company. Ginger Rogers and Marlene Dietrich were just two of his many romances with star actresses.
He was quite a ladies' man, you know, in his life when he was a single man. I mean, he didn't get married until late in his life. And women would just gravitate to him.
Ever been to New Orleans, Tom?
No.
It's wonderful this time of the year. You would like it there. How about it?
Marlena told me the story about shooting a scene with Jimmy, and she said we were lying down and, you know, we were kissing and, you know, Jimmy got, shall I say, very interested. And it was quite obvious. And so the director, George Marshall, came up and he said, "Cut! Lunch! Jimmy!"
But Stewart's bachelor days would finally come to an end. In 1949, he negotiated his most important contract ever. His lifelong marriage to Gloria Hattrick MacLean.
Now everybody wants to see the girl who captured the man they call America's most eligible bachelor.
He was eligible with a capital E. He was a bachelor till he was 41, and then in 2 years he had 4 kids. That must have been a shock.
She was his greatest fan. She was a beautiful-looking woman and very elegant when she was dressed in the evening. They looked great.
She was just a remarkable lady. Her father had worked for William Randolph Hearst as an editor. I think that he just fell so madly in love with Gloria and was all of his life. She was so funny. She always came out, and nobody could repeat it because her delivery was inimitable. She just was such a funny lady.
Gloria, so effervescent. Tony, oh, Tony, you're looking so good, Tony. She loved my looks. And every time, Jimmy, look at this handsome boy. That was really nice. They were a wonderful couple.
Another great pairing for Stewart, but this time purely on screen, was with Katharine Hepburn in The Philadelphia Story.
Someday over the rainbow, way up high.
What is this, Connor? Oh, easy, easy, old man. She's not hurt?
No.
Not wounded, Saul, but dead.
Seems the minute she hit the water, the wine hit her. Now, look here, Connor. A likely story, Connor.
Hello, Dexter. Hello, George. Hello, Mike.
Philadelphia Story was a fabulous film. And it wasn't until I saw the picture a number of times that did my eyes start to wander. And there was Jimmy Stewart. His subtlety and his ability to work made it possible for him to bring a depth to that which looked like a very superficial role. That was his gift, okay? He knew that. He knew the way he shuffled into a scene. Hi, guys, how's it all going? You knew he was going to take over. You knew he had a purpose. He was never in a scene not having a purpose.
I've heard actors say that when they worked with him, they were just working with their best friend or somebody who was as nice as they could be. And then when they saw it on the screen, they realized he was killing them, you know?
Are you still in love with her? Or perhaps you consider that a very personal question. Not at all. Liz thinks you are. Liz thinks you are. But of course, women like to romanticize about things. Yes, they do, don't they? Yes, they do, don't they? I don't know. I can't understand how you can have been married to her and still know so little about her. Can't you? No, I can't you. I have the hiccups. I wonder if I might have another drink. Certainly.
For a moment, Stewart and Hepburn, their characters, fall wildly in love with each other. I mean, it's a lovely little infatuation. You really believe this guy's losing himself.
The magnificence that comes out of your eyes and your voice and the way you stand there and the way you walk. You're lit from within, Tracy. You've got fires banked down in you. Hearth fires and holocausts.
I don't seem to have made of bronze.
No, you're made out of flesh and blood. That's the blank, unholy surprise of it. Oh, you're the golden girl, Tracy. Full of life and warmth and delight.
Stewart won an Oscar for his performance in The Philadelphia Story, but his proud father already had plans for the statuette.
The windows of the hardware store were filled with stills from pictures I did. The night I won the Academy Award, he called me and said, "Send the award and I'll put it in the window," which I did. And it was there for the rest of the time until he died.
In March 1941, 18 months before Pearl Harbor, Stewart signed up to the Army Air Corps. As far as he was concerned, his movie career was behind him, and he was now simply Private Stewart. Although when he received his first salary check 1 month later for the princely sum of $21, he didn't forget to mail his agent 10%.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud to be here. I'm going to do my very best to be useful as a soldier in the United States Army.
I mean, can you imagine in a modern career going off and being in the war and then coming back? You know, I can't imagine actors doing that. Well, I've got like a really great career going, you know, and they go, well, you got to go to the Second World War. It's extraordinary that these guys did this.
While stationed in Tiverton, England, Stewart, now a colonel, was one of the few Hollywood actors who faced real danger, flying in more than 20 bombing missions over occupied Europe.
He felt it was just something Americans did when they were called to serve their country. There was nothing glorious about it in his mind, either when he was serving nor afterwards. It's just serious business.
What really is interesting about Stewart for me is ultimately after World War II, starting with It's a Wonderful Life, the dark side that he was able to express, building to the films he made with Anthony Mann, which are highly, at times, unpleasant Westerns. You know, the character's really tough. And I think, well, he was in the Air Force. I think war did a lot to, obviously, to a lot of people who participated. And I think this is interesting how he expressed this darkness that was part of, I guess, everyone's soul right after World War II.
Supposing I don't tell you. Then what?
Where is he? Where is he?
Winchester 73 was a turning point for him. Directed by Anthony Mann, it was the first of several westerns that would take his roles into darker territory.
Starring James Stewart as Glenn McClintock, Indian fighter, trailblazer, a tower of strength in the wilderness. Julia Adams, who made the mistake of loving two men.
It was Jimmy Stewart that was different from the early Jimmy Stewart. He had then that dark side and that great anger that he could portray, and very great strength.
Hold it, McClintock. We're taking over.
Yeah, we're going to the gold camp with this food.
Glenn!
Normally, with the Western, you see the black hat and the white hat, and there's the hero and the villain. And this was the first time that they had crossed the border, because his intent had an evilness about it.
I'm taking him back.
I know. I'll marry you. I'll go with you. I'll even live in that land with you. What else do you want from me?
Why? Tell me why. I'm taking him back, I swear it. I'm gonna sell him for money.
I think only Jimmy Stewart could have played that role. I don't know that anyone else could have crossed that delicate border, that line, where you understood, you didn't like what he was doing, but yet you understood the emotions and the storm that was brewing inside and was happening inside.
The man from Laramie
These westerns brought Stewart not just a newfound critical success, but also financial security. He was an astute and wealthy man, in part due to the groundbreaking deals that were made for him by his agent, Lew Wasserman, which secured him a large percentage of the profits of his films.
We had friends in common, Gary and Rocky Cooper, Ray and Mal Milan, and we all just sort of drifted together and became a very happy group. And in those times, they all worked in the industry, and we'd see them, and so it was going to bed early every night, but Saturday night was the night to party and have a good time.
And he was a fabulous guest at the party. Come here, Tony, come here. Hey, come here. That incredible hand of his. Come here. I'd come and sit down alongside him on the couch, put his hand on me. He was in the middle of a story. Loved to tell Hollywood stories about people that were gone, people that were coming, location stories. You know, he was a picture man.
You might also see Jimmy Stewart. Hollywood is very proud of him. He's not only a great actor, but he's also a general.
And impeccable manners. You know, he saw everybody right in the middle of a speech say, "Hi, Freddie. Gee, I'm nice to see you. Everything good? Yeah, great." And go right back into his conversation. He had that mobility that I like so much. And that made it very appealing. "Hi, Charles. What's going on? How's your wife?" "Oh, God. Excuse me." And, you know, he had a way of doing that. So other guys, you know, Kirk, you sit there, you know, there's no fooling around.
He was very funny in a quiet, dry sort of way. You know, he wouldn't say anything for a long time, then he'd come out with these wonderful one-liners, and he had a very funny delivery.
He would start a story when we were ordering perhaps hors d'oeuvres when we were out to dinner, and by the time the dessert menu came out, he was only partway through the story.
He was one of the great geniuses of the movies. He was the remarkable Alfred Hitchcock.
Stewart's greatest collaboration of the 1950s was with Alfred Hitchcock, and in their 4 films together, the British director used the wholesome Stewart to explore the nature of fear and neuroses.
This is the scene of the crime. A crime of passion, filmed in a way you have never seen before.
Well, Hitchcock took Stewart further than anyone had ever done before. But I think he saw that the very lovable guy, just because he was so lovable, could catch the audience unawares. And Hitchcock loved to play a little bit against type. So I think he saw Stewart as someone like that.
Hitchcock felt that the difference between having a star actor in a movie or an unknown actor was the difference between riding along the highway, seeing an accident, slowing as you pass, and seeing that the person is a total stranger, and you shake your head and go on. Or, as Hitch said, you're driving along now, you stop and you look, and you see that the person on the stretcher is your brother. That's the difference between having an unknown actor and a star like Jimmy Stewart.
This is the apartment of a man named Jeffries, a news photographer whose beat used to be the world. Right now, his world has shrunk down to the size of this window.
He's a hero. He is the hero of the film. He's intelligent, he's courageous, but there's a very cold edge to him. And it's one of the first non-Westerns in which you really feel that tough, hard edge.
Those are just a few of my neighbors. First, I watched them just to kill time, but then I couldn't take my eyes off them, just as you won't be able to.
And you won't be able to take your eyes off the glowing beauty of Grace Kelly.
I know he thought Grace Kelly was just gorgeous. I think he thought she was maybe his most beautiful leading lady.
Where's that wonderful music coming from?
Some songwriter over there in the studio apartment.
Kelly had a reputation where married men were concerned for being something of a predator. But Gloria had nothing to fear with Stewart, and often joked that the more attractive the leading lady, the more attentive he was at home. The main problem facing Stewart in the late 1950s was in finding parts for an aging romantic lead. Fortunately, director Otto Preminger offered him a role that many actors in Hollywood had coveted for some time, that of small-town lawyer Paul Bigler in Anatomy of a Murder.
Beg pardon, are you Miss Mannion?
Hi,
I'm Paul Bigler.
I'm Laura.
How do you do?
This is Muff.
Oh, what? Jail's right here.
You're tall.
You never quite know what to believe. It's a film about whom do you trust? Was it murder? Was it rape? And he's just, he's wonderfully mature and cool in it.
It might very well be that no lawyer can handle your case, if you mean getting off scot-free.
You seem to be forgetting Barney Quill raped my wife. I have the unwritten law on my side.
The unwritten law is a myth, Lieutenant. There is no such thing as the unwritten law. And anyone who commits a murder on the theory that it does exist has just bought himself room and board in the state penitentiary, maybe for life.
James Stewart was one of the reasons I became an actor. There I was, a kid who really became an actor because of him, working with him, and stupefied by his discipline and his hard work. I mean, he worked with blinkers on. Jimmy didn't schmooze on the set with other people. Even at that age, after he'd done all that remarkable work, he was still a worker. I came thinking I would show him something. And I don't think I showed him much. He showed me more than I showed him, believe me. Yeah.
Is that because you know that Barney Quill bathed and changed and cooled off after he raped and beat hell out of this poor woman?
Your Honor, everybody in this court is being tried except Frederick Mannion. I must protest...
Now listen, this is a cross-examination murder case. It's not a high school debate. What are you and Dancer trying to do, railroad this soldier into the clink?
His father refused to see it for a long time because he had read reviews that it was a film about... Wasn't it one of the first films about rape? That openly discussed the topic, and Dad holds up a pair of panties in court.
I offer this article of lingerie as exhibit number 1 for the defense. They're white, they have lace up the side, and they're badly torn, as if they'd been ripped apart by powerful hands.
Nobody thought anything of it. The panties was the issue. Could you say panties? Can you imagine? Could you say panties on the screen? Yeah. So that's the only issue that came up, really.
In 1960, the whole family went to Europe, and there was an audience with the Pope that was organized. When he got to Dad, he stopped and talked to him for about 5 minutes, and there was just a hush in the rest of the room. And Dad was looking appropriately reverent and sort of smiling. And then after the Pope left, he just shook his head, and the Pope left. And the man behind the Pope said, "Do you know what the Holy Father said to you?" Dad said, "I have not a clue." Evidently what the Pope had told him was, "Look, normally I'm a decent fan of yours, but this Anatomy of Murder, this sort of thing has to stop. I'm very disappointed." And as the man, I was far enough away, I couldn't hear what he was being told, but I could see the smile disappear, and Dad's face got redder and redder and redder.
Throughout the 1960s and 70s, Stewart continued making films, including director John Ford's The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. But with changing times and tastes, there were fewer parts that Stewart would consider. Then, in 1969, his son Ronald died while serving as a Marine in Vietnam. Although grief-stricken, Stewart, a lifelong Republican, continued to support the war.
Jimmy was a wonderful father to those boys. I'll never forget when Ron was killed, and they'd just been to Vietnam to see Ron, and had seen him. But it was a huge loss.
In his final years, Stewart received many awards and accolades, including an honorary Oscar for Lifetime Achievement and the Presidential Medal of Honor from his friend, Ronald Reagan.
They gave Jimmy a retrospective in Monterey, California. And I went. I was invited. I guess he didn't know I was coming. And when he saw me, he cried. Tears fell well. I'm crying thinking about it. So that you see, that's us. We don't talk, we don't call, but we remember. And when we see each other, it's as though we left each other yesterday. It's the strangest thing about it. And he was terrific.
This is a tune about a cowboy.
down in Arizona where the Badlands are, and the only thing to guide you is the evening star.
It very often happened when people were over. When we'd had those small dinner parties with their best friends, that Dad would sit down at the piano afterwards.
Was Ragtime Cowboy Joe.
Every time we were ever there, I mean, he'd always end the evening playing Ragtime Cowboy Joe, and sometimes Gloria would join him as she did her cowboy dance.
And Gloria did the hula. Wouldn't you have loved to have been a fly on the wall there?
I think a big aspect of her personality and Dad's too is that they were totally unpretentious, and the good friends they had were totally unpretentious. And that was different in that Hollywood world.
It's that rootin' tootin' shootin' son of a gun from Arizona, Ragtime Cowboy Joe. He always did that.
That he's a highfalutin', rootin' tootin' son of a gun from Arizona, Ragtime Cowboy. Talk about your cowboy, Ragtime Cowboy Joe.
A devoted husband throughout his marriage, Stewart was devastated when Gloria was diagnosed with lung cancer in 1993.
It wasn't supposed to happen that way. And he didn't expect it to happen either. It was a shock to all of us. Life went on the same. She made no demands on anybody. And she was really wonderful. But it was very hard, I think, on him. But she made it easy for him because she didn't dwell on being ill.
Finally, she just became weaker and weaker. And then last night, I wasn't there, but I think she was up in her dressing room with the children and Jimmy, and she had her drink and her cigarette, and she just went to sleep, which was a blessing.
You didn't hear her laugh around the house. She wasn't there to tell them they were going out, or where they were going, or what they were going to be doing. The children said a lovely thing. They said the director died, and she took the script with her.
No, his life was ended with Gloria, really. He didn't care. They were just a wonderful, loving couple.
He just didn't want to do anything. In fact, he rarely came downstairs.
Yeah, every time we went to visit him, I felt like he had packed one more bag and was ready to go, and that he would be packing up his participation in life. And every time we went back, one more bag was packed, and you know, he was just waiting to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Stewart passed away on the 2nd of July 1997. His public image remained to the end that of a great actor and a much-loved American.
Well, he left us all with Jimmy Stewart. He left us with Jimmy Stewart. What a gift. What a gigantic gift.
We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Yeah, we'll meet again. I don't know where, and I don't know when. Till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away.